Minister, the mountain access scheme was rolled out initially in the 2008-2010 period. After a long examination of this whole issue by Corlin and Tuathia. Now, the whole basis of the scheme was based on permission by the landholders and respect by both the landholders and the hill walkers for each other. In the initial phase of the scheme, 2 pilot areas were selected: Beanleva, or Mount Gable in Nuhioch in the Dries Country, and Carrantuhal down in Kerry. Now, the basis of the whole concept was that the farmers would give agreement to allow hill walkers walk above the line of the enclosed field, in other words, out on the open mountain. But this was to be subject to a number of conditions. The first one was that all the walkers would enter and egress at agreed points. The second one was that through the RSS scheme and the Department of Rural Development, car parks and stiles were to be provided at the entrance and egress points, so no open gates. You went over a stile, and that was absolutely essential. The third one, and looking at what happened recently in Wicklow, the disgraceful behaviour of dog owners down there, all walkers were to adhere to the Leave No Trace code, and that was absolutely vital, that if they were on the hill, they had to respect the hill and respect the owners of the hill. The next point was that there was to be a rural recreation officer to be available locally to deal with any issues caused by walkers. And farmers were to be indemnified against any claim against them for public liability. In other words, you slip in the mountain, if you try to sue the farmer, which would be very unlikely, but if you were to try to do it, they'd be indemnified against that. And finally, clear maps were to be agreed, including on smart apps, of the area that was open for walking, so that everyone was clear where you could walk. Now, for many, many years, the scheme lay dormant. And I understand that there's been progress in more recent times. But of course, things have changed even in the 2 areas that were involved, and this was meant to have been rolled out nationally. And there's an absolute need for continuous consultation and agreement on the scheme with the farmers. And the farmers have to be central to all of this because it is their land. Now, I have heard concerns, which I hope you'll be able to allay, that in at least one area, the people involved in the pilot project, that is the farmers, do not feel that they're in the loop as to whether it is intended to proceed with this scheme, and particularly they don't seem to be clear as to whether there is an indemnity and what the conditions of that indemnity is. They haven't seen any insurance policy, etc. And I also believe that for this to proceed, you have to start from step 1. I mean, we're talking about, what, 15 years of a time lag. And of course, I'm rather hinawad, taint you woide, agus, ta shin had a fear, so gosha, so that people who are gossers are now the farmers at the time of the scheme. And therefore they feel that you have to go through, and any scheme that to proceed would have to be with their full renewed consent for the scheme. So I'd hope that you'll be able to clarify for me that we will get this once again based on the consent principle by the farmers, and that the lack of openness that seems to be there at the moment would be dispelled, because without trust, the scheme doesn't work.
Thank you, Deputy Ó Cuív, for raising this matter. And I'm taking this on behalf of the Minister with responsibility for Community and Rural Affairs. So, Embracing Ireland's Outdoors, the new National Outdoor Recreation Strategy 2023 to 2027, which was launched last November, was developed in collaboration with Corlin and Tuathia and is a collaborative cross-government stakeholder-led strategy. It reflects the views of stakeholders, the public and the whole of government, and it sets the stage to strengthen and support the sustainable development of outdoor recreation sector in Ireland for years to come. Embracing Ireland's Outdoor has committed to enhancing access to outdoor recreation amenities, including the expansion of the Mountain Access Project to other upland areas. The Department of Community and Rural Development and Corla na Tuatha are currently developing guidance for mountain access projects to aid other local groups in the management of key upland areas using good practice models. A Sustainable Uplands Recreation subgroup of Corla na Tuatha was established to review the pilot, develop guidance and advise on the future expansion of it. It has met 9 times. The membership of the group includes the farming representative groups of the IFA and the NIHFA. The guidelines are being finalised later this year, and following this, it is proposed to commence the expansion of the mountain access project by the end of 2023. A further commitment under Embracing Ireland's Outdoors will see the piloting of the Upland Recreation Scheme, similar in the nature to the Walk Scheme, which will be rolled out through the Mountain Access Project in 2024. The Department has for some time been examining how best to introduce a scheme to indemnify private landowners in upland areas who will allow access to their lands for recreational purposes. This is a complex issue, and the Department has been advised that an indemnity scheme such as has been proposed would require legislative progression, and that a number of separate pieces of legislation might need to be amended. In light of the complexities involved, the Department of Rural and Community Development have been considering alternative pilot approaches, including an insurance solution to address the matter on an interim basis. Through this process, a public liability insurance policy was secured by the Department for the 2 existing mounting access project areas, the McKillacuddy Reeks in Kerry and Bin Schlieve in Galway, and this came into effect in 2021. The pilot solution was developed in consultation with Corla na Tuatha and has been implemented on a trial basis. The policy represents a substantial step forward on this matter for landowners in the mountain access project areas involved. In addition, the issue of indemnity has also been addressed through proposed changes to the Occupiers Liability Act, which are currently being proposed through the Courts and Civil Law Miscellaneous Provision Bill 2022, and the Department is also engaging further with the Attorney-General on this matter. Quite a comprehensive response.
Yeah, but it tells us about the future. And it keeps talking about the pilot scheme as if it existed. So you said, they were talking about expanding it, and all these plans and so on and so on, as if the pilot scheme existed. It says there was insurance put in place in 2021, as if the farmers knew about it. But Beantaoibh is the mountain at the back of my house, and I happen to know the farmers round the mountain. And the farmers don't seem to be aware whether they've given consent, because some of the younger farmers weren't there in 2008, and anyway it was too long a period of time to work on whatever was agreed in 2008. The world has moved on and changed dramatically. And the second thing is, they don't seem to have any knowledge of this insurance policy that you talk about. So you say, through this process, a public liability insurance policy was secured by the Department for the 2 existing mountain access project areas, the McKillicuddy Reeks and Beantaoibh in Galway. I was approached by farmers in Beantaoibh, and they don't seem to have any detail in relation to this insurance policy. And it's their land. So, Minister, maybe you'd carry back a request from me that there would be an immediate, urgent consultation with the 2 pilot area farmers, all of them, as to exactly what is going on and when was their consent given, and on what basis was agreement, and were they made aware of this insurance policy, and have they had sight of it? These are very, very fundamental issues, because the whole success of this, the whole idea, was key. There was one key ingredient, and that was farmer support and consent and agreement. And we're in danger of losing that through lack of interaction with the farmers. No other local group is any good. It has to be with the landholders who own the land. And we know well enough in Ireland about the traditions of owning land how precious land is to people and how they are very anxious to preserve their rights in their own land. They're generous with it as long as you do that.
To conclude. Thank you again, Lascan Corla. And I understand Deputy Ó Cuív's concern regarding the Mountain Access Project, and I will bring back your commentary to Minister Humphreys on it. Embracing Ireland's Outdoors commits to expanding the Mountain Access Project, as with a timeline to the end of 2023. The Department wants to ensure that there is appropriate guidance before it is expanded. This guidance has been developed by the subgroup of Curla and Natuha. The subgroup has the farming organisations represented on it, and any expansion will be done with the cooperation of the farming organisations. I think the important piece here is, and also the landowners. Yes. That's the piece. It says the farmers are the landowners themselves, and I will bring that back to Minister Humphreys. I understand that officials from the Department of Rural and Community Development met with representatives from the CDS, Cho, Petersburg Outdoor Centre and Geo Park last month regarding Mountain Access Project at Benchleave and Mount Gable, and it was agreed at this meeting that the Department would provide funding for an engagement officer to work with the local stakeholders and to assist with any issues. In addition, the Department has asked that the IFA to assist at a local level. Embracing Ireland's Outdoors acknowledges the essential role that landowners play in facilitating pervasive access to their lands, while acknowledging that this goodwill and the legal rights of landowners must be respected by all recreational users. In the rollout of the Mountain Access Project and its expansion, this principle will continue to be respected and adhered to. Thank you, Deputy.